ever wondered what hidden treasures lie behind Rick Harrison's counter? Step inside to discover rare gems waiting to be found. Dive into a world of unexpected finds and hidden stories with Mysteries of the Pawn, 10 hidden gems in Rick Harrison's collection. In this video, we reveal 10 unique items that you might have never known were part of this famous collection. Each piece has its own story waiting for you to uncover. Join us as we take a closer look at these mysterious treasures and learn the secrets behind them. The neon-lit Strip and the more peaceful areas where hustlers and dreamers left their mark were both golden in the desert sun that blasted Las Vegas. At the center of one such corner was the gold and silver pawn shop, where Rick Harrison stood with his keen eyes and quick wit. He was known to the world as Pawn Stars' deal maker, a man who could turn a handshake into a fortune and find a treasure in a pile of trash. For Rick, however, this store was more than just a company. It was a storehouse of tales, with each item representing a different phase of his life. He considered the 10 things he could genuinely call his own as he made his way through the crowded aisles, his boots clicking on the shiny floor, each one bearing witness to his development from an inquisitive youngster to a pawn game expert. First and foremost, the center of his empire was the gold and silver pawn shop. Rick, a young man with a talent for seeing value where others saw trash, had been there since the beginning when his father, Richard Old Man Harrison, opened it in 1989. He became a co-owner over the years, helping to make the store a worldwide sensation. The building, a modest, squat building on Las Vegas Boulevard, was filled with thousands of objects, including old slot machines, comic books that had turned yellow with age, diamond rings, and Civil War muskets. Each shelf contained a bargain he had mediated, a compromise achieved via charm and perseverance. The store was more than just real estate, it was a living reminder of his hustle and his identity. Although he had once claimed that it was worth millions, Rick believed that the true worth of each pawn ticket was found in the tales he had turned into television gold. His second great stake was Pawn Plaza, which stood next door. Rick dreamed of something larger than a single storefront after witnessing the throngs of people that flocked to the establishment once Pawn Stars took off. He transformed a dilapidated lot close by into a bustling center of small businesses known as a strip mall in 2014. There was a coffee shop where fans sipped lattes and hoped to catch a glimpse of Rick's Rollin' Smoke BBQ, which served brisket that attracted both locals and tourists. His real estate wager, Pawn Plaza, allowed him to expand his business beyond pawnbroking. Rick felt proud as he walked through its courtyard. He had created this from the ground up, investing resources and ideas into a patch of desert soil. It was evidence that he could both create and barter, and it was more than just a piece of real estate. The third jewel in Rick's crown was a treasure trove of historical artifacts that he owned inside the pawn shop. He remembered one particular item, a leaf from a Gutenberg Bible, which was among the first books ever printed. His heart was pounding as he held a piece of history from the 1450s that he had paid $47,000 for. Every object had a story, and he was its keeper, if only temporarily. The delicate page, with its clean black ink, served as a reminder of why he cherished this game. Even though he made a good profit of $68,000 when he sold it, the excitement of owning it persisted. A Viking sword, a Roman coin, and a letter signed by Napoleon were among the other artifacts that had passed through his hands, but each one left a mark, a moment in which he had grasped the past and felt its weight. The fourth treasure in Rick's collection were rare coins, which shone in the store's display cases like hidden gems. His deals reflected his lifelong passion for numismatics, or the study of coins. He was haunted by one coin, a 1922 high-relief peace dollar, a silver gem that he had acquired for $80,000. Its elaborate design, featuring the placid face of Lady Liberty, was a masterwork of American minting. Rick had marveled at its rarity while studying it under a magnifying glass. He kept a few coins for himself, locked in a safe at home, but he eventually sold it. Profit was the goal. They were his personal treasure trove, a tribute to the young person who once dreamed of wealth and gathered pennies in a jar. Rick's passion for music was evident in his fifth ownership, which were vintage guitars. Although there were many six strings in the store, one in particular caught our attention. A custom guitar made for Mary Ford, the wife of Les Paul, the legendary figure who helped to shape modern music. Although Rick's $90,000 purchase price was controversial, he understood its worth. Under the shop's lights, the guitar's polished wood shone, its strings evoking radio hits and jazz clubs from the 1950s. Before selling it to a collector, he smiled like a teenager and played a few chords himself. Nevertheless, Rick had other instruments, a Gibson here, a Fender there, kept in his house, and he would strum them late at night while losing himself in soul-stirring tunes. Rick's sixth obsession was vintage cars, their curves and chrome a call to arms. A 1966 Mustang and a 1957 Chevy were among the many deals the pawnshop had arranged, but one in particular, a 1932 Ford Roadster, a hot rod with a growl that attracted attention, stayed with him. He drove it around Vegas after purchasing it for $68,250 and then sold it for a profit. Rick kept the specifics of his personal rides private, but they were kept in his garage at home. When friends mentioned a restored Corvette or possibly a pickup for desert runs, Rick simply grinned. Cars gave him freedom, allowed him to feel the wind on his face, and allowed him to escape the chaos of the shop. Everyone he owned was a story told in horsepower, a chapter of adventure. Presidential memorabilia, items that brought the titans of history into his orbit, was the seventh treasure. Rick had previously held a $60,000 cigar box from John F. Kennedy's desk. The weight of decisions made in the Oval Office was etched into the worn wood. He had pictured JFK relaxing, smoking a cigar, and deciding how to steer the country. The shop thrived on turnover, but selling it had been a bittersweet experience. Tucked away in his study, Rick kept a few items for himself, including a Roosevelt campaign button and a signed Lincoln document. They served as reminders that he, as a pawnbroker, could claim the relics that even the powerful left behind. Old and complicated maps were Rick's eighth love. Over the years, he had accumulated a personal library, but one map in particular caught his attention. A 1650s chart that oddly depicted California as an island, a feature of early cartography. He was fascinated by its edges of parchment and faded ink, a glimpse of a world yet to be discovered. He still boasted about the great deal he got at an auction. For visitors who were unfamiliar with Mercator from Magellan, the map that hung in his house served as a conversation starter. For Rick, it was more than just decoration. It was a puzzle, a reminder that even the most intelligent people make mistakes, and that it was worthwhile to challenge conventional wisdom. Neil Armstrong himself tested a NASA rocket engine, which was the ninth item, a wild card that few would have predicted. It was a massive piece of metal that appeared to be junk to the untrained eye, and Rick had discovered it by chance at an estate sale. Knowing its history, Armstrong had used it to train for the moon landing. He had paid a small fortune. It was now a remains of human ambition sitting in Rick's warehouse. He had once displayed it on Pawn Stars, smiling as specialists confirmed its origin. This was a keeper, a piece of the universe that he could touch, and selling it was not the plan. He was reminded that the stars were within the reach of a pawnbroker. The 10th treasure, the oldest stained glass window he had ever owned, was a personal item. Centuries of dust had dulled its colors when Rick discovered it at a salvage yard. He had it restored, and it showed a saint with his hands up in prayer, its reds and blues gleaming like a gem. It was installed in his living room and created patterns on the floor as it caught the Nevada sun every morning. For Rick, it represented perseverance, a delicate object that had withstood floods, wars, and even the passage of time. It was a silent bulwark in a life of never-ending transactions, and like him, it had survived storms and emerged stronger. Rick considered these 10 things as he closed the pawn shop that night, the neon sign flickering off. Coins, guitars, cars, memorabilia, maps, rocket engines, windows, the store, the plaza, and the artifacts were more than just material belongings. Each one was a story told, a risk taken, a battle won, and evidence of a life lived according to his terms. A young man with a dream and a talent for haggling, he had begun with nothing. He was now a 60-year-old Vegas legend, and the art of the deal was synonymous with his name.